All right, recording has started.
All right, perfect. Except for I was trying to help you and I got off of it. All right, cool. So this is part 2 of the Microsoft SharePoint Premium in the Real World, bringing practical cloud AI to content management series. Like I said, I wish I had copies of the book. They were supposed to come today. The publisher messed up my address. So pre-order a copy of the book on Amazon today. It's, like I said, it was #1 in content management services for like a week or so. And you know, we expect that to happen again once the book finally comes out. We'll be presenting this at the M365 conference too, if anybody's attending. We have a booth, and Microsoft's going to be joining us and actually talking about the book and so on. So that's pretty exciting. That you guys know me, Dustin Willard, MVP, Microsoft M365 apps and services. Here talking all the time to my favorite user group. We got Woody Winchman, and I'll let him introduce himself here in a second, and then Ryan Dennis. If you guys want to just, Ryan, I think you have a intro slide, so maybe Woody, if you just want to give a quick intro, maybe that'll work. Woody?
He's frozen.
He's frozen in place.
Yes.
Instead of Teams, the note is let's use Zoom next time. Just kidding. Just kidding. Woody, are you there? You still frozen?
Anybody there?
Brian, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. I guess Woody's just frozen.
Didn't Ryan have that same problem last time?
That would have been Jacob.
Or
Yeah.
Jacob?
Yeah, I think he did. He might have had that problem.
Maybe it's a storm issue, computer issue.
Maybe it's a Skyterra internet issue. Like last time, right? I think we have to let him in. Oh, now I'm open. All right, I guess.
Oh, no, our thing's frozen. Oh, no, give me that.
I see Woody like joined. But if no one let him in,
No, you're good.
I heard an entry.
He's there.
He doesn't look frozen anymore.
You're not frozen anymore, Woody?
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
But we can't hear you.
No, he's just can't hear him now. But he's not unmuted. He shows unmuted.
We can't hear you,
Mic
Woody. Ryan, can you talk one more time?
Testing.
Testing one,
Yeah.
2, 3.
All right, there you are.
All right. I had to change computers because I crashed.
Oh, God, yeah. So if you want to just do a quick intro, that'd be good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, my name's Woody Windishman. I've been working with Dustin and Ryan at Slalom for a few years now, and I've been working in the Microsoft productivity and particularly the SharePoint space for a very long time. I am actually a MVP alumni, formerly in the SharePoint space. I was a SharePoint MVP for close to 7 years. I also worked for Microsoft for 6 years plus as a contractor on the SharePoint product development or product management team. So I've been around this area for a while. The book that Dustin was talking about earlier is a collaborative effort between him, myself, Ryan, and one of our other Slalom compatriots. And I actually have my copies.
Thanks. Diggs. I've been seeing them all week, and I'm like, I want a copy.
Yeah.
Woody also
So,
is being a little bit.
I've been doing
generous.
this for a little while. I also have 2 other books under my hat on SharePoint Designer.
Yep, exactly. I was just gonna say that. And like I said
So yeah,
before,
I'm the other
lot
person
of
who
the
likes
books-
SharePoint Designer.
Right. A lot of the books that I learned SharePoint to were from these guys. And like, I'm just fortunate enough to be on their team and work with them. Woody's like SharePoint Designer books were amazing back when SharePoint Designer was a thing. And Jacob wrote a whole bunch of SharePoint administrative books that was on, he was here last month. And then Ryan, he also wrote a managed metadata book. So all these guys are former authors. I'm the newbie. So, but it's exciting to work with these guys. Ryan will introduce himself when he gets there, but I guess from here, Woody's going to present SharePoint Premium AI image processing, which is another feature set of SharePoint Premium, and it's pretty awesome stuff. So
Yeah.
With that, I'll let you go ahead and take it away, Woody.
All right. So this slide, I've got a question out there, which is what is image processing? And I'd like to take some opinions from the audience here. What do you think of when you hear the term image processing?
Developing film.
Developing film was one.
That's old school, but correct. Yes.
Yeah, I'm old.
Anybody else?
I was thinking it's like you're scanning the image for information somehow. It's how you interpret it after it's the processing.
Filters.
It's really good.
Okay. Image processing tools. I heard film, I heard scanners. Any particular software that you associate with image processing?
Going really old school, Kofax.
Instagram, Kofax, we got
Think of like OCR stuff.
OCR stuff as well.
OCR.
That was
Okay.
a Kofax.
I forgot.
Photoshop?
Photoshop, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's different.
So yeah, there's a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of space encompassed by the term image processing. And if you go to the next slide, basically there are, two different phases or types of image processing. There is the creative side of it, the taking and developing pictures, editing it in Photoshop, or nowadays using AI for image processing. A lot of people think of DALL-E and generating an image from a prompt. And so that's all basically on the input side of the process, the creative side. There is also, I heard mentioned OCR, that is an analytics function of image processing. So that's taking the image and looking at it and deciding, what is this image? What is it a picture of? Is it a picture? Is it a document? What does it mean? What are some of its salient characteristics or properties? And so this is the space in which SharePoint Premium comes into play. It's not very glamorous. It doesn't produce splashy pictures all over your screen to share. It doesn't produce deep fakes. It doesn't do anything like that. Oh, there's a nice deep fake right there.
I asked Dan to ping you instead of me. So, because in the room, it was just showing me and you're talking. So,
That's all right.
here we go.
So, and it's still showing you, but that's another story.
No, we see you now pretty semi good.
Yes,
All right.
you're both in. I can remove you as.
Yeah, remove it.
So yeah, where SharePoint Premium comes in and uses its AI is in the analytics side of the image. It can look at your picture and an image that's uploaded and determine really what it is. Is it a document? If it is a document, let's read the text and produce a text output from this document. Maybe populate some fields. That's another function that's in some of the stuff that I think Ryan's going to be talking about. But that's a facet of image processing. The other facet is it can look at actual images and derive what is in them. So if you've got a picture of a landscape, it might tell you that it's a landscape. It has trees, it has a pond, it has birds or whatever. And so I want to show you how that works in SharePoint Premium here. So I know I think I added a slide that says I'm going to do a demo, but so you can advance to it if you feel like it. And then I'm going to seize control here. I'm going to try to. I had to change computers, so I can't guarantee that it's going to work because I'm using a web browser instead of the actual Teams app. And show the entire screen. Been a while since I've used the web browser to do this. It's changed the entire user experience on me. All right, and I don't need to show the system audio. So. All right. So I'm going to. Yeah, that's me. That's me sharing.
You're sharing your desktop and we see me and the room.
That's okay. All right. So what I need to do is launch what I'm hoping is the correct instance. It is. Good. All right.
Woody, can we talk about why this is super useful too? Like around like searching and findability and so on of your images? Or you might be getting there.
Yeah. That. You're getting ahead of my demo.
Okay, sorry.
So. All right. So. I've got a SharePoint library, which is designed that I've added a number of images to, but I'm going to actually just for, and you can see here, I've got a list of images. Trying to get it to have the gallery view by default.
He's just having audio lag. You may want to turn his video off.
You're having audio lag pretty bad, Woody. Do you want to just turn your video off and maybe that'll make your audio go good?
All right, let's see if I can. Camera off.
All right, maybe that'll help.
All right, let's see. See if that works any better. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Seems good.
So, all right. So you see I've got some images here, and I'm actually going to go and grab another handful just so that you can see what happens when you do this. So, and I'm going to go to my pictures library. And Ireland. There we go. I'm going to just grab a small handful of these images that have several different things in them. And I'm going to drag them into my, or try dragging them into my, there we go. So while those are going in, I'm going to switch back to my other view, which was the list view, because that I have several. There we go.
Using the trackpad's horrible. I can tell you that's what he's using.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I had to change off of my other computer because it crashed.
Yeah.
So.
No worries.
But as you can see, I've added some images, and right now all they have on them is their actual image file names. I haven't changed any names to be friendly or anything for these pictures. But looking at some of these others, you can see how the system has looked at the image and listed different attributes. And I'm going to.
Nobody tagged these images. No one said that's what this is. The system is looking at the image and identifying the stuff in the image and then tagging it to the content. So in the future, you can find this stuff, right? Based on that. Because you don't have good,
Correct.
most of the time you do have images just like he has labeled image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4. You have no idea what's in those images, so it's really great that the system's like,
All those years of capture paying off.
yeah, exactly.
Or surprisingly enough, this is a picture of a castle. And if you didn't know that already from the fact that it says it's a castle with a lake, outdoors with sky and plants and trees. Which, would you say that that's a pretty accurate call out for what's in this picture?
Here.
And
That's us.
then this
It's
bridge,
everything in it.
or this bridge picture, which is the first one I opened. You know, all I said was that it, you know, in my title, I just called it a bridge. But it's showing not just that it's a bridge, but it's an arch bridge. It's calling it out as the Bailey Bridge. I don't know for sure whether that is in fact, just a second, I'm going to close my door because my dogs have gone haywire here.
Sounds like it could be. Sounds like an Irish name, Bailey, right? Bailey's. That's what I know.
So
Bailey
this
Bridge
is a
type-
bridge over the Ohio River between Ohio and West Virginia.
So Bailey Bridge is the type of bridge, Woody.
Yeah.
Is what
Okay,
we're talking
thank you.
about.
Kind of bridge, yeah.
Yep. And again, sky, trees, plants, outdoors, all words that could very readily describe this picture. So, all right, I'm going to refresh my view, see if any of the, make sure I'm sorted by newer to older so that,
They are.
and well, what do you know? We have an image with flowers, outdoors, plants, and white. And this is actually a raw image file from my camera.
But
So it
you
may
wouldn't
not
think that
been
SharePoint
rendered,
would recognize.
Yeah, that's, I saw that.
Yeah, I said you wouldn't think SharePoint could recognize a CR2 raw file, but it does.
Mm-hmm. And that pretty much calls out what's in that flower, in that picture.
It does.
All right. Oh, here it found some text.
So that's the cool part, right? So if it identifies text, it actually extracts the text out, tags it to the content. And now all that stuff goes into the search index. And now it's searchable, refinable, and retrievable, unlike many other types of content, right? So
Yep.
literally
And
read
there
through.
is indeed the text that was in the picture. It was on the sign.
So like it.
You can also see why the text wasn't perfect. Some of the extracted text was not like super readable, and you could tell by looking at the image too. That's really cool, Woody.
Mm-hmm.
But like now that the pastor's name is in the index, so you could, if you had other pictures or other documents or whatever, and you looked for that with that person's name, you'd be able to find all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he was showing the full resolution of that picture.
What?
The one he was showing it. I think it probably wasn't as garbled. Because it was like 4,000 by 3,000, so that's how I probably really read it.
Yeah,
I think it was more like a thumbnail.
So as Dustin was saying earlier, now that you have these properties in the index, or collected from the image and placed into a readable text column, you can do searches based on it. So I did a search for castle here, for example, and obviously the picture of the castle that we saw earlier came up because it is actually labeled castle. This one might have come up from a general search for castle because it has, the castle in its file names. But
castle.
But the other ones, surroundings. If I look at this one, if you look at this image, it is indeed a picture of the castle, but it's from the inside of the castle. And it collected that information. If I go into the, back to the document from the results, and I think that was called surroundings. It picked up that it was a castle that you were storing outdoors, ruins, sky, stone. And those are all perfectly valid. Similarly, from the courtyard picture. Again, this is a picture of the interior of the castle, inside the castle walls. And, you know, if we look at the courtyard, and it says building, castle, clouds, lawn, plant, sky, trees.
You guys
Those are
all
all-
understand what power this is and why it's powerful. It's honestly, it's truly powerful because we all, if you have worked with any client, they throw in all their like company party stuff in the SharePoint library. It's all image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4. And like, you don't know where you are in those pictures or what was going on in those pictures. You'd have to open up each one. So if you did a search and tried to look up Dan Bergeron's name, it's not going to find Dan. It's going to be like, this is, or a guy, right? A guy, or, you know, guy with a party hat. It's not going to find that stuff.
So
They
like,
just give descriptors.
yeah, for example, a good use case would be, you know, Sean decides that I'm no longer with the company.
Right.
And now you need to scrap all the information with me. And if you had this all in there,
Yep.
you could just say they know Dan Bergeron's been tagged in these, and you don't have to manually tag me.
Right.
You would be able to find all those and then throw them away because.
Yeah,
Sean got
something
rid
like
of
that.
It can do facial recognition.
So Microsoft has prevented that
I was
as of
gonna
right
say.
now. So, but it
That'd
is,
be
in the
cool.
it is in Azure Cognitive Services. You can
Okay.
do facial recognition. But as of right now, inside of this product, they don't.
Okay, so it's not like
Oh,
Google
so-
Photos, track those faces and pick them up over time.
Unfortunately not. And that's because of a privacy concerns. People were like, just because I work for a company doesn't mean I give my right to likeness and look to the company, right? Because they taken my picture. And so there was a whole debate and the lawyer in the room probably could understand.
Yeah. That's our lawyer.
No, we
Right.
make everybody sign the
You have a
likeness. so
signed
we-
contract, you can't.
Yes.
So-
Yes, question, and now these metadata columns, those are out of the box, you didn't have to train the model, it's already trained.
Correct.
So what are you can answer the questions? I'm sorry, I'm taking over and jumping in. I'm just in the room and
Yeah,
I.
this,
sorry,
basically,
are
this
those
is all
metadata
based on a model that's already been built by Microsoft. It
Okay,
definitely doesn't require any training. It has a very extensive list of attributes that have been curated and associated with the various images. And so it is continuously reviewing, and sometimes it'll update things in the background. And if Microsoft updates their model, you might see an updated property show up. I haven't seen any of that happening yet, so I wouldn't, you know, it's a pretty stable model.
will this integrate with Power Apps at all, by any chance? So if you were using an app to upload images?
It goes into SharePoint.
Yeah, the image processing takes place in the background. It's automatic. It's a static column or a statically defined column. It's invisible until you actually have images in the library for it to scan. Similarly to the recognized text column. Those are both columns that are native to the system that don't get lit up until or unless you've turned on the OCR and or image processing functionality.
Right.
I'm just thinking the power of this based off her question is, can you take a picture of, let's say, we take a picture of this room before we came in and, you know, let's say we left all our crap on the desk and then take a picture after and then actually do a diff and highlight the differences.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely do that based on the metadata that's exposed, right?
Yeah, you can, that's a key, is that if it detects a difference in the contents of the room, and so gives you different metadata, you can tell that they're different. The native image processing does not do a direct comparison of images.
Okay.
It's
But
not
you
gonna
could-
do that.
So you have to be able,
But we could develop it to do
Right.
it.
Yeah, you could find the difference between this image and that image with the same, like,
Yeah.
attributes and figure out what's different in this image versus
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
And then I could take pictures of odometers, for instance.
Yeah.
And pull all that data better than.
It would OCR the odometer.
What's that?
It would OCR the odometer reading.
Yeah, so we've built this before for someone, and I think this could just enhance it.
yeah, but there's other things I'm just thinking out of the top of my head, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of Airbnbs, right? And they come in and they've now charged the person for cleaning. They take a picture before, this is what it looked like, they come in after, and it's just the cleaning crew's job to take a before and after photo. And then if there's any challenge down the
Yeah.
road, you just basically have the ability of saying, this was the before, there was,
It looked like this.
you flag it, you flag a difference.
Yeah.
Is there still a cost per scan?
It'd be negligible and it's something like that. I was just thinking.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about up until we have a client accidentally duplicate their entire SharePoint directory again.
No, that never happens.
No.
All right. So yeah, I see you guys can already, your minds are blown as far as coming up with different ways that this can be useful for you. One of the things that is important to consider when you're going through this, there are a couple of different ways in which you can tell Microsoft 365 to do image processing in OCR. The key here is because these are all pay-per-use models or pay-as-you-go model functionality, it only charges you once for the processing of any given image. Even if you're using that processing in multiple places. If you upload the image another time to another location, it'll process it again. It can't tell that it's the same image and not charge you. But if that processing is used in, to generate the properties, or it's used to generate the extracted text in a SharePoint library, it doesn't charge you again to use that same extraction in Purview. So that's one of the, they've at least taken that into consideration so that you don't get double billed for doing the same thing.
And you can just imagine, so I
If
think
you
where
change
it's
your
coming-
model.
if you have Purview and you have automatic data classification, it's looking at one of those columns and it says something very specific in one of those columns that you know is sensitive, or you could have it automatically log down, apply sensitivity label to the content and restrict access, or you apply your retention policy or so on. So to the content on the fly based on it looking at that. So example, if it's a social security card of an image, right? And, no one should see that but HR. You could automatically have a sensitivity label that would be applied, only HR could see it.
Could you further train it? So like, say you're working on R&D projects, it could know that, so it could apply Purview labels to those,
I mean, yeah, as long as it can read it and it recognize probably.
like.
Yeah, that's probably starting to encroach on Ryan's territory now.
Yeah.
Especially since I've now gone from my allocated half hour, it might be a good time to transition to him. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today. Thank you very much.
What do you think? Yeah, and Woody has to drop early because he has some family events to go on, but we really appreciate you joining today, Woody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Woody.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Woody. All right. I assume everybody can see the screen. I assume everybody can hear me loud and clear with my ridiculous microphone that you can hopefully all see on camera here. Good to go, Dustin? Should I dive right in? Anything you wanted to segue?
You dive right in, man.
All right, let's do it.
Mom package. She plans to start podcasting, so.
That's what I'm saying. Get the guitars to that.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about me for a second here. So I'm going to kind of quickly segue into a bit of an about me slide, but obviously you guys saw what Woody presented. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit about content assembly and content query, but I thought I would introduce myself just a little bit here and You can probably already make some assumptions about me based on seeing my camera, seeing me on camera, my ridiculous mic, my guitars behind me. So you might have assumed I'm a musician. You're correct. So I like to do a lot of things, and one of them is play music. The reason you see this background slide here is that is me with a drumstick mid twirl in the background. And the reason I included this picture is this is a really fun example of using modern collaboration tools to actually produce a band of 8 different musicians in 8 different geographies with only a single rehearsal to then play successfully in front of 500 people, which is what I did about 2 years ago. And so with that, that's the Rabbit Hole Band.
Awesome.
Yeah,
It was
so
amazing.
it's a really cool story. So basically, when I first joined Slalom almost 4 years ago now, the guitarist you see there, not in the blue shirt, but in the dark shirt, kind of looking down right in front of me, his name is Rob. And Rob and I, when we first spoke, noticed guitars in our background on our video camera here, and kind of said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we started a work band one day? And to make a really long story short, we had our first ever Slalom global team retreat in Denver, Colorado. And we had this crazy idea to produce a slalom band, and none of us lived in the same city. And to make a long story short, we essentially used recording software and tools like Teams to collaborate, produce a set list, rehearse virtually with the use of recording tools. And then we had a single rehearsal in a recording studio the day before we performed, and played about an hour set. And it was really, really a lot of fun. But hopefully that tells you a lot about me and the kinds of things I like. You can see behind me guitars as well, which I do play. I've got a son who's almost 12, a baseball player. I'm married to an awesome wife who owns her own hair salon. So if you're like, man, that guy's got some nice hair, you are absolutely spot on, and I keep it tight. But outside of that, really passionate about Microsoft. So I've been in this space a long time. You'll see the 2 books there. I actually, just for fun and to kind of rub it in Dustin's face, I've got them here, including the new one. But I've been passionate about this stuff for a long time, and it's funny when I start to look at how far SharePoint has come, and I think about, let's say 10 years ago, a lot of third-party tools to maybe try to do some of the things we can do native today. A lot of this stuff was pie in the sky, but it's really cool as somebody who considers myself a bit of a nerd to kind of see how far it's come out of the box. And so really excited to talk to you guys today and kind of share a little bit of what I'm passionate about. So let's dive in a little further here. So we're going to talk about content assembly and content query. I won't spend a ton of time on content query because I think your imaginations will run wild from there because it's pretty self-explanatory. But content assembly, we'll definitely spend some time kind of talking about it. So from a kind of what am I going to talk about perspective, a bit of an overview on the capability, some examples of how we might use it, some of the limitations with using it as well. As with anything, there are limitations, right? So we'll talk about those. Do a bit of an overview on the document template piece, which is obviously a big piece of this. I'll talk a little bit about the content query capability, and then we'll spend hopefully most of this time actually doing some real live demo. And I've got a site that I will share on my screen that we'll do a little building together here in a few minutes and hopefully have some fun doing it. So stop me at any time if you guys have a question or want to call anything out, or raise a hand if you're on Teams and able to use the tools there. But happy to stop at any point and ask any questions as well. I have a tendency to just start talking and going. So if you're like, man, let us breathe, happy to do that. Call it out. All right. So what is SharePoint Premium, formerly known as Centex, formerly known as Project Cortex Content Assembly? It's a lot of things. I'm not going to drain the slide here for you, but the way that I love to describe this to people who are curious about it is it's essentially a way to make it really, really easy to submit similar pieces of content over and over again using a common template. So for example, think a basic contract or a statement of work or a non-disclosure agreement, something where 80 to 99% of the document is the same every time, right? It's a template, maybe it's got a header, it's got some specific, verbiage in it. And then there's a few placeholder values, my name, what the date is, am I signing it? That's a whole other thing we'll talk about. A lot of, kind of reuse capabilities is really where this stuff starts to shine. And where the content assembly piece comes in is that we can now create these modern templates where we can essentially stamp these out over and over again, where only those unique different variables are unique within the document. And then you can imagine how all that gets converted to metadata, becomes very searchable, content query becomes part of the equation, et cetera, et cetera. So at a high level, that's what it is. So some of the examples that I like to think about, and Microsoft is doing a very interesting job sort of dancing around the word contract when it comes to this stuff. And I'm going to sort of use the word contract loosely here because I don't think they're trying to compete necessarily with your typical contract lifecycle management or CLM solutions, but think basic agreements, think statements of work. I work at Solemn, we're a consulting firm, we write SOWs. 99% of the time, the template is the same, right? It's just, what's the client name, what's the project name, what are the particulars, right? Those are what we're talking about here. So service agreements, consent letters, sales pitches, invoices, things where the document itself is common and the unique values are, let's say, maybe a few dozen or so of them, and maybe even get used multiple times within the document. And we'll look at kind of what that looks like as well. And so with that, I mentioned I would talk through some of the limitations, and that there are a few, and I love that Microsoft words these as current limitations, which is to say maybe some of these will change, don't know. Dustin, the MVP, maybe can share some NDA stuff with us and get himself in trouble. Probably not, but basically the main limitations, this is really based on a Word scenario, right? So this is a Word document based scenario. So for now, that's, a pretty key limitation. You can see it also shouldn't include comments, shouldn't have track changes enabled, right? So, you could think maybe if you're drafting a document, you get it to a point where you want to use this, then you delete the comments, you turn off track changes, no problem. You've worked around that limitation. But there are some others, and you'll see things here like only one document library. So I know for many organizations, they might see that and go, oh no, I can only do this in one document library. Well, that is a limitation currently, but also I would say, if it's something like a non-disclosure agreement, how many places are you really going to store those, right? You may have a common NDA library, single place, put them all there. I don't know, but these may not be a huge limitation, but they are worth calling out. So wanted to kind of quickly highlight those as well. But we'll keep moving for now, and you'll see some of these kind of in real life once we demo here. Definitely not going to spend much time on this slide because there's a lot of words and I don't really like tables on a slide. But I thought in terms of the recording, or certainly if we share this deck, which I think we probably will, these are good to call out as well. And I'll say these are straight from, the Microsoft documentations. This is not a slalom, copyrighted list of things or anything like that. But the main thing to call out here is the difference between modern templates and some of the other templates. And you'll see, maybe I'll call out two things here. For example, data sources. You can associate fields in these with lists as well as term store data. I'll show that in the demo as well. So that's a big piece of modern templates, whereas, other templates not applicable. And then obviously on the licensing piece, this is a Centex or now SharePoint Premium specific thing. So you do need that, pay-as-you-go licensing, as it were, sort of enabled within your environment to actually use this capability. But once that's done, it'll really work sort of anywhere in your environment that you would like it to work. So it's works in your standard SharePoint document libraries. Before we dive into the demo, let's spend maybe 30 seconds talking about Content Query. So really sort of a modern take on advanced search. If you've been around SharePoint for a while, you probably remember the various iterations of trying to do like advanced metadata search with refiners and get to that sort of Google experience. Many of you may have tried P&P tools to get there. This isn't necessarily sort of exactly that, but really this is sort of taking your basic ability to search for documents and bringing all of your additional metadata into that advanced search query experience. So think maybe I'm searching for a document, but I know it's a specific client name or department that owns it, or whatever the piece of metadata that you might be using is. You can now use those as direct refiners within the content query experience. So as we kind of go through the demo here and look at sort of the content assembly solution, Content Query just takes that to the next step. So once I've generated hundreds of contracts and I've got a long list in a library, I can now filter by, when was it signed, or who signed it, or, whatever the case may be, right? Whatever, use your imagination on what metadata might be relevant to you. Certainly I'll demonstrate some simple examples, but, we've all got our own, use cases, right? Before I dive into the demo, I'm going to pause both for a sip of hydration here. But any quick questions, anything that isn't clear, anything we want to circle back on before we dive into demo mode?
Can you talk about the pay as you go? So is it pay as you create per document or pull in per query?
Brian, you want to answer or you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, it's pay as you actually use the template. So It's not paying when you create the template, you don't pay anything, but it's as you fill out the content in each template, that's when you pay. And it's marginal money, but that's how you
But
pay.
it's not like, okay, I'm gonna use 17 different query polls in this
Yeah,
template.
it's not cost per query. No.
Okay,
It could change that though any day. I don't know.
Yeah,
And they like this
yeah,
up.
they'll call it
They
something else.
likely will.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's a way to generate more money.
absolutely. All right, cool. Let's hit demo.start. All right, let's move screens here. All right, hopefully you can now see a web browser. Is that true?
Yes, yeah.
All right, I'm not exactly sure why the very bottom, for me at least. Let me see. Can I drag that down? That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Do you see that too?
Yeah,
That's actually common.
We'll get over it.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. So this is a content center. To back up just slightly, I created it about, I don't know. It says 3:26, which was really 6:26, less than an hour ago. So that it was already kind of stood up. And I did this just so that I didn't have to wait for the typical, demo demons, which will probably still get me at some point with something. But one of the things I hate the most is when I'm like, I'm going to create a quick site for you guys right now. And then that's the time they decide to take 5 minutes to do it instead of 5 seconds. So I created this just a little bit ago. A couple things to call out. This is a Syntex, or now called SharePoint Premium Content Center. No, you don't have to use one of these to do this, which is a question that's worth calling out, especially for the stuff I'm going to show today. But there are some sort of special capabilities baked into the Content Center. Feel free to look those up and check them out at your convenience. But for now, I just wanted to start from there because it's got kind of that fun homepage and looks very, Syntexy, right? What we're going to do in the demo, though, is actually start by creating a new document library. I'm sure none of you have ever done this before, and we'll call it NDAs. We're going to start with an NDA solution for our demo, so we'll just call it NDAs. And essentially, we're going to start to build out a bit of a non-disclosure agreement solution here. And so you can see I just created the library. It's got your typical 3 columns and nothing else in it. This is where we start to get the fun stuff, right? So for the content assembly, if you recall earlier, I called the modern templates out. We talked about, it has to be Word, and there's some specifics about it that are, limitations. We're going to start by actually clicking on Create Modern Template here. And this is, as you can see, right from the new menu. So that's, of course, lit up by me having Syntex pay-as-you-go configured. So if you're like right now on your laptop going, I don't see that on my tenant. Well, you might not have this stuff turned on yet. That's why I see it. Let me go ahead. Oops, I need to browse. Where did I put it? So the first thing we're going to do when we create a modern template is actually choose the template. And so I've got one. Just have to get to it here. NDA document template would be the one. And so what it's going to do once I choose my template and it sort of quickly uploads it, creates a copy. And by the way, for you SharePoint nerds in the room who care about this stuff, it's basically putting a copy of this template in my forms folder of the library. And then what you'll see here is it's going to give me a little bit of a sort of browser-based designer experience, for lack of better descriptor. And this is what my document looked like. Actually, I should have maybe led with that, but trust me on this one. The document you see represented on the screen here is quite literally what it looks like in Word. So if you see, I've got, a non-disclosure agreement. But what I've done is I've sort of started out by making it sort of fast forwarding a little bit, if you will. And so I took the opportunity to sort of make some placeholders in my document for where I knew those values that are going to be reusable might actually be. And I wanted to make that both obvious for me for this demo and for you guys to see that. But also I kind of recommend that if you start to play with this stuff a little bit, if you are going to sort of go through, especially if your document, and it likely will be more complex than what you see here, it's kind of good to maybe just go through and create like a sample where you can sort of, make it really obvious to yourself where those reusable spots are. And the reason I say that is we're going to start to actually set up our template here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is click on this plus field button. And you can see I get a couple choices here. So I'm going to create a new field. And yes, you can tell it knows I've been here before. I'm going to create a client field. And you can see it's highlighted the client name spot still. And the first thing you'll notice is there's this choice of content field versus form field. For everything I'm showing today, I'm going to use content fields because the selections are going to be replaced in the document. But note that there's some options there to play around with the form field as well for more scenarios that might be more of a sort of a form filler and less of a sort of a document like this. But for now, I'm going to select client name and I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And you'll see it's going to ask me how authors fill in this field. And you can see I get some choices here, not a ton of them. And one you may notice right away, and if you don't, I'll call it out, that's missing is people. So can't choose a person or group field for something like this, at least not yet. Probably the closest you could get is email. But single line of text, multi, number, date, time, email, hyperlink are all choices. Or as you can see here, I can also select from choices in a list or a library or from managed metadata. Right? And this is where we can start to take advantage of our enterprise taxonomies. And so if I browse here, you'll see I've got a Contoso client details because that's where I work, right? You guys have heard of Contoso, really cool company. We're going to use the client's term set and actually allow us to choose the client name from that list of values. And you could see here, I could choose to allow multiple values. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And that's essentially the starting point towards a content assembly solution. So right now we've got a single field in our template client that's represented with the client's taxonomy managed metadata term set. But what you can also do, and I'm going to jump back in to show this, is specify multiple places in the document where, and let me actually make sure I only select to the end. And select multiple selections and actually have them all get replaced. And so in situations like this, where I might have, different instances of the same value in the document, I can actually use all of those and replace them all sort of in one action. So you can see now I've got 3 selections for client name. So that's cool. That's cool. We're going to move on though. We're going to continue here. And so contact is what we're going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and set contact name. I'm going to confirm. But while we're here this time, since I just explained the ability to do multiple selections, we'll go ahead and grab both instances of contact name as well. And this time, we're just going to do a single line of text for this one. Just keep it real simple. We've got 2 selections there. And then we've got one more field we want to add here. So let's go ahead and you guessed it, we're going to use date. And just for fun, I just kind of did this, year, month, DDDD thing. So we'll grab that version. Grab that version. Grab that version. Go ahead and hit next. And those are date fields. So we will use date and time. I'm going to not include time. And actually that format for me is perfect. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And so now we've got our template sort of ready to go. So we've got, essentially 3 reusable pieces of information that as we go to fill out the document, we can use. A couple other things before I publish this and show what it looks like. You'll see I can also do conditional sections. I wasn't planning to go into that level of depth in the demo today, but certainly, feel free to check that out. There is some ability there. The other thing you could do is you can actually use tables for this and sort of have repeatable, data. So think like maybe an invoice, right, where they're buying something and there's going to be, multiple rows sort of inserted into the invoice. That's very much possible. The other thing that, again, not demonstrating this today, but I wanted to leave this in the document to allude to it, is signatures. And so another SharePoint Premium capability that is, Dustin, is it out already or is it coming soon? I can't recall where we're at on the roadmap. Do you know?
For what piece?
Signature.
eSig.
Signatures are out now.
eSig is out. Okay, so eSignature is now available as well, and so sort of thinking about this as a more holistic solution, maybe something a little more mature than sort of a quick demo here. Think about bringing eSignature into this as well, right? So I've got a non-disclosure agreement. I generate it. I now send it out for signature. Workflows are triggering. Lights are lighting up green, and KPIs are happy, and all kinds of fun stuff, right? So you could sort of imagine how this could be taken further than sort of what we'll show here. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and publish this out. And so when we do that, it asks us for a template name, and just for sake of clarity, and by the way, this is what we will see, and you can see where it says so here. This is what we'll see in the new menu. So just so it looks really clean from that perspective, we're just going to call it NDA document. And then we can actually choose which fields or all of them that we want to add to our library as well. And so this is kind of nice. So sort of in the process of publishing this template, I can also say, yes, go ahead and create me a new view, drop those metadata fields in there, and sort of give me a, ready to go solution, right? So let's go ahead and publish that. It shouldn't take more than hopefully a few seconds here. It says it's done. Let's go check. Okay, so if you recall before, when we first built this library, we had name, we had modified, and we had modified by. You can see now we've got a few additional fields here, which is cool. Our view's been renamed to NDA document. And if I come over here to the new menu, in addition to all the stuff I saw before, I now see a new entry for NDA document. Now, certainly I could remove these others, maybe in a more production scenario, I might, get rid of the ones I don't need, right? And just sort of keep it clean. So just for sake of demo, let's do that really quickly. Update our new menu here, and we'll just keep NDA document. All right, there we go. So that's a little cleaner. The other thing I would show you guys really quickly from the new menu edit perspective, and you might be wondering, and so maybe I'll preemptively answer a question. How, Ryan, do I get back to that NDA document template, right? Once I publish it, okay, cool. We just did that whole thing, and maybe now I need to go back and tweak it. I could do that right from here as well. So if I hit edit, it'll take me right back into that same designer experience, just to call that out. But let's go ahead and create a new NDA document. And so this is...
So,
Yeah.
like we searched and searched and searched when this first rolled out. Like, how do you edit it? It's done because there's nothing that just says.
Could you go into like the forums
Yeah.
folder?
I would have never gone in
No.
there.
No,
You're right, it's not intuitive.
It's really not. You have to
It's really
edit
not.
the menu to find it, and then edit it from there. And it's like, but I was editing the menu. Why am I?
It'll
It's
move
like-
next week.
It's like when you edit, you get rid of your left nav on a
Yeah.
checkpoint site, and then you're
Yeah.
like, shit, how do I get back to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh.
exactly
Yep,
like
that's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So similar to the sort of editing and publishing experience for the template, our authoring experience looks, again, similar. One thing that's kind of nice, and they give you the ability, if you've got navigation in your document, that's here as well. I kind of meant to call that out earlier, but I'll show that now. So if it is a really big document, you've got a lot of headings and whatnot, you do get a bit of a nice experience there. But for the sort of the authoring experience, if you've used managed metadata before, you're probably familiar with the ability to do type ahead like this. You can also certainly, browse by tags as well. And so I can sort of look that way. For the single line of text, it's, as simple as, typing, right? Nothing crazy there. And then of course for date, nice date picker, just like normal. So maybe we'll say Dustin today. And we'll go ahead and hit create document. And as you can see, when I did that, certainly it tells me now at the top, 0 required fields are remaining. Nice little intuitive, user experience piece there, but kind of cool on the left too. You could see the document getting built, right? So it's filled out all those variables from the managed metadata, the single line of text, and the date picker that we, selected on the right. So you can kind of see in real time, like what's it look like. And certainly if, you misspell something or whatnot, you could clean that up really quickly there. And then you could create the document. And so let's say in this case, Dustin demo. You can see it's going to put it in the NDA's location. It knew that already, which is great because that's where the template's created. And so now, voila, we've got a fresh new document modified a few seconds ago. And you can see it's got, obviously the name we gave it, great. It's got the content type, which, can be great, especially if you've got multiple content types in the library, right? That becomes a filterable slicer, so to speak. We've got our client, our contact, our date. So that's all great. Again, with these being managed metadata fields in the case of client, we can do all kinds of fun stuff. We can group by, we can filter by, we can sort by. Just really quickly to stall for a second while search quickly indexes this document. No magician ever reveals his tricks, but I just did there. Let's look at the document. So you can see it's a completed NDA. And if I come back into it just in regular view mode here, you can see I'm kind of in the Word context now, right? It looks like a document, right? So it brought in my client name. It brought in, you can see Dustin's name. You can see the date, see the various placeholders within that it also updated as well to make sure the whole thing is ready. And so pretty cool, pretty clean, pretty simple, pretty quick.
You
if
can
I,
also
I'm
save it as PDF as well,
It could have auto saved as.
Correct.
Okay.
as a PDF, and then that way it's.
Yep. And let's just see, we're going to try it. If it's not there, I've got another site I can pull up. It looks like it's probably already there. Great. So I wanted to quickly show the content query. It looks like we're getting close on time, but I think we're doing pretty fantastic. So great. From a search perspective, obviously I've got my search box like before, but once I've got the Centex pieces, again, licensed appropriately, I also see this little, if you didn't see that there, I'll do it again, this little ability to kind of toggle. It kind of looks like the settings, sort of things up here, the advanced search options. And this is where content query comes in. So if you recall earlier, I mentioned this is sort of like a modern take on that advanced search. And so right away, you could see all the typical stuff we might think about. So keywords, file name, people, modified date, file type, content type. But if I add more options, this is where I can now search for my custom metadata. And so you can see 3 additional values here. Those are exactly what you think they are. Those are the 3 that we have in our template, right? So client, contact, and date. And so I can now make any of those a specific queryable field that I can now query directly from the search index perspective. So for example, maybe I want to see client, what did I choose? I think I chose Fabricam. Just make sure we actually get data back here. We'll say client contains Fabricam and do a search just for a really quick, easy example. And you can see, yes, we only had 1 document. I get that, not impressive, right? But it did find it. And so it found it because it's Fabricam and it filtered by that client. You could see that here. I could add additional terms as well. I could, bring other fields into it if I wanted to also say, and, contact is Dustin, for example, or what have you. But really sort of taking that basic search and that out of the box ability that we all know and maybe love, maybe not, but kind of giving you some more, ability to filter by those additional fields as well. So kind of cool. Again, one of those pieces that you'll see lit up once you do have the SharePoint Premium pieces in place. But yeah, that's content assembly sort of in a really quick nutshell. So, again, the ability to create reusable templates and sort of quickly author documents based on them. I'll go back sort of to the slides here and see if there are any questions or anything else we want to sort of discuss, but that's mostly what I had prepared from a demo perspective.
I have 2 questions. One, can you take a Microsoft form, so a link to a Microsoft form that external parties can fill out to then feed back to your template to fill it in for you? Like a workflow, something to talk to it. So you say, hey, client, I need you to do this, fill out this information, have that form push back to my template.
That's a good question. You dump it to a
It's,
Yeah, you dump it or listen and.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the form
you're
could be
right. Dump
triggered
it to a
Power
list,
Automate.
Power Automate, okay.
Yeah, and then you could probably have it create a Word document, and then as long as it uses the right template, I would think it would expose the fields. I know you could do content assembly in bulk, so from that perspective, Power Automate talks to it. So yeah, I think you could probably wire that up if you wanted to.
All right, second question is, can you have plug and play scenarios? So in terms of, I know you did a really lightweight contract here. We're not going to use the word contract, lightweight document template.
Yeah.
So different variables that you could like select for whichever scenario. There could be like, various clauses, and this clause is going to apply, but this one's not, and select them as you build it.
blocks of content, like.
I'm more
Yeah.
thinking, for the lady sitting next to me in the room,
Yeah.
is really why I'm asking the question. Lawyers, they have various stuff that'll come and play in certain contracts, won't come and play in certain contracts, right? How can she plug and play this in?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts there. One, there is the ability to do conditional sections within the document. So that may fit the bill. Just essentially, which, define your conditions and sort of, which ones are relevant for which scenarios. The other thing is you may, and this, it may make more sense this way potentially, would be to have just multiple templates. So, I just had the one, click the new menu and choose NDA. You might have new, simple contract or new advanced contract. I don't know if it's quite that simple, but I think maybe a couple ways you could do that. But the conditional section is probably what I would look at first in terms of seeing if that sort of fits the bill. Again, there are some limitations with it, but it does work pretty well.
The conditional sections is almost like what we do with So we just have the tabs. It's a conditional, if it's conditional.
That's what I'm
we leave
saying,
it. If we
exactly,
don't, we
yeah,
leave it.
exactly, so.
Agreed.
Some excited ladies over here. Just-
Yeah, because if you do too many, the concept of too many templates, then we already have too many templates and we don't even have that many templates.
Yeah.
So it's, we found a way to
We've
reduce-
manipulated a system to make it work for us.
Yeah.
You can't do like a character restriction for how long you can fill those boxes in, can you?
Like number of.
Yeah, sure, you probably.
I'm just thinking like if you're building contracts, me adding a ton of legalese into one of those boxes just for fun to circumvent it.
I don't think there is actually. Is there a character limit? I mean, single line of text, there is a character limit
Yeah, there is.
on single line of text field, period.
Fee equals no.
Yeah, multiple lines of text, I don't think you can limit that. So yeah, you'd have to do a single line of text, and you'd be restricted by the 255 characters.
Well, and I think, and I have not tried this. We could certainly play live if we want, if everyone's got time. But I wonder, you know, these all become columns once they're published from the template, right? So in theory, I could come in and if we wanted to say, I don't know, here's the single line of text, contact, you know, maximum characters, I don't know, 20, right? We could do that certainly from the column perspective once it's published, because then it's, you know, now we're back to the SharePoint stuff. You know, we can go into the library settings and modify accordingly. So I would think that would work as well if you needed to be a little more restrictive than that.
Yeah, but I do like what you're thinking though, like have the form filled out, the form dumps it into a SharePoint list. And then based off the content types or how the questions were answered in that is determining which template you would use.
Yeah.
Like,
Assume you can assign
Yeah.
fields to other people when. You assign fields to other people, like, you know, say you're doing a document with a signature. For them to fill in.
Sort of. SharePoint's always been a
Okay.
little weird about sort of, you know, field specific like security. You could absolutely, you know, as part of your workflow, though, have it go to various stages of approval where, you know, other folks contribute to it. But I always get a little nervous when I hear that question, just because I think some folks sometimes mean security. In other words, like I, Ryan, can't actually edit that field, but I can edit this other one. That gets a little tricky. Not to say it can't be done, but it gets a little tricky. But
No, I mean, for example, in life sciences, when they do the FDA build of a document, there could be 30 people working on a document. The initial part is like 7 pages when they create the template. And then they assign scientists or QA people or legal people. So there could be 21 people working on the same document. And that document grows from that document then grows from 7 pages to 300 to 500 pages within 3 weeks. It's crazy. And they do it in SharePoint today. But they do it by assigning certain sections of the Word document to certain individuals, and they lock other people out.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's probably not a great use case for content assembly, at least as it lives today. But, you know, probably absolutely ways to, you know, either automate or make that a little, you know, a little more magical, so to speak. All right, Dustin, are you taking the presentation back, or do you want me to advance it here?
You know, why not advance it? We're basically done,
All right.
so.
Yeah, I think we only had like one slide, I think, right? Yeah, our shameless plug slide, I think, is the only one that's left.
Yeah, I'm gonna I actually have some things that you guys can scan and buy it right now with this QR code. So if you're interested, another shameless plug. And so go ahead and advance. I think that's it really, right? Yep, and thank you for all of your guys' time. And again, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ping me or reach out to me or Ryan or Woody or Jacob or anybody. So we appreciate you guys joining us again.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, guys. This was
That's been
great.
awesome.
Awesome.
It was super.
Sorry for the technical hiccups at the beginning.
It's all good.
I can ask you offline.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Need
Do
to wrap it up?
you want to wrap it up?
Just a mention of a few events and stuff like that. Yeah, there's the .NET developers, users group. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking about Microsoft .NET Aspire. If anybody's interested in that. Oh my gosh.
There's the man.
So,
I'm the tech guy today.
so we've also got Microsoft Build right around the corner. If you're interested in that, that of course is out in Seattle. It's relatively big event that's coming up, and I'm hoping I get to be there this time again. We'll see if that happens. But the other thing that's coming up is New England Give Camp. So if you haven't heard of what New England Give Camp is, it is a 48-hour hackathon style event where we get a bunch of nonprofit organizations together that have some technical issues that they need to resolve. And we get a bunch of people, developers together to, hack them out. And, we do what we can in the 48 hours. We usually do pretty good with them, come up with decent bite-sized chunks to knock out for them. And it's a lot of fun. We get sponsors to pay for the meals and all that stuff. And for the first time, it's actually happening in Manchester, New Hampshire this year. So definitely looking forward to that. That's May 17, 18, 19, I think. If I get my weekend aligned right. Definitely hit me up if you're interested in any part of that. If you want to, help feed hungry programmers or developers, or if you have a nonprofit that has some technical debt they want to knock out, or if you just want to help, knock out that stuff. We're looking for everybody. We're also happy to have people jump in and help co-organize with us. So lots of stuff to do and not as much time to do it. So check that out online. Hit me up, like I say, and we'll work it out. What other events are going on?
If there's Garage Conference is coming up at the end of May, or at the end of August, rather, that we'll all be at. That's really, conference season is winding down, at least for me, for this season, so.
Where's
Season's winding down and then the fall will start up.
Yeah, the fall is when it starts up. So M365 conference is at Disney World, at Epcot in the Swan and Dolphin. So, horrible place to have to go, right?
What time? What
It's right
time frame?
At the end of this month. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's it's like a 4-day conference, so, yeah.
Wait, so it's April.
But
You said August.
Yeah, I said August.
Yeah.
Said August.
It's the fierce stronger than you thought.
Yeah, it must be.
Oh, it's
I'm
31st and 2nd.
Yeah. Did I say August?
You did.
Did I say
A
August?
couple times. actually.
I don't know. And only other thing that I can think of is Code Review Nightly. If anybody's interested in jumping in on that, that's every weeknight at 9 p.m. Anything else?
Your cybersecurity symposium, did you mention that?
That actually canceled this year. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Wow. All right, never mind. Sorry.
Bit of roughly.
Yeah.
All right. All right, cool. Well, thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see y'all. Take care.
If you could give me info on that, the giving thing. I'd
Give
be-
camp?
Yeah, for to production org.